All right, I haven't done one of these in a bit. Got a Patreon request, and here we are. Jim Nill, his general manager's body of work. There it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. All right, now. Jim Nill was brought in April of 2013, and he was seen as a smart scout and a smart hockey mind and the kind of guy that Dallas needed if they were going to get over the hump. When he came in, Dallas was 22-22-4, had missed the playoffs. And this past season, they were 42-32-8 and missed the playoffs with 92 points, which is a solid enough showing. But the team seems to be kind of treading water, and let's see what he's done to help fix things and how much of this could be set at his feet. I'll look at his trades first. June 7th, 2013, his first trade was to get Sergei Gonchar back to Dallas from Ottawa for a 6th-round pick. Gonchar was in the twilight years of his career, but he was a good mentor on the blue line, and it was fun to see him back in a Dallas jersey, even though clearly his best years were behind him. July 4th, 2013, Sean Horcoff goes to Dallas for Philip Larson and a 7th-rounder at Edmonton. Horcoff was really a lightning rod in Edmonton. Everything was his fault. It was kind of weird that everything that happened in it, you see it all the time. Oilers fans are just Horcoff this, Horcoff that. I thought he was okay in Dallas. I enjoyed him in Dallas. I thought as a bottom 6 forward, he worked pretty well. July 4th, 2013, same day. Of course, this is the big one. Tyler Seguin, Rich Peverley, Ryan Button to Dallas for Louis Eriksson, Joe Morrow, Riley Smith, and Matt Fraser going to Boston. Now, this trade gets just absolutely lambasted by people who are saying Jim Nill fleeced Chiarelli. Somewhat. Eriksson got a lot of goals in Boston. Morrow was a guy who was bouncing around, still kind of is, because he has that potential. Look, Winnipeg, you saw it in the playoffs. He has that potential to be a top 4 guy, and then it just falls apart. Riley Smith, we know where he is right now, and Matt Fraser at the time was bouncing back and forth between the AHL and the NHL, but he had shown enough scoring upside in the NHL level that I wanted to see more of him. So really, honestly, they did get something back on the Boston side, but yeah, Dallas wins the trade because they got the best player, which is Tyler Seguin. And that transformed things, and it showed that Jim Nill believed that the time to win was now. And nothing he's done since then has made me think otherwise. July 1st, 2014, so the next summer he brings in Jason Spezza and Ludwig Karlsson, who's not going to play, I wouldn't think, for Alex Chiasson, because he was going to Ottawa. Now he's Chason again because he's in Washington. It's so weird. Guptill, Nicholas Paul, and a 2nd-rounder to Ottawa. Dallas wins that deal short term with Spezza. Right now, the Spezza contract, I think Dallas would love to get it off the books. So, short-term win, but again, this is because you have a GM who's saying we got to win now. And Spezza was seen as the perfect number 2 center when he was brought in 4 years ago. November 21st, 2014, Demers and a 3rd-rounder to Dallas for Brendan Dillon going to San Jose. I never liked this trade. I like Brendan Dillon a lot. That's my own personal opinion. March 1st, 2015, Matthias Janmark, Backman, 2nd-rounder to Dallas for Eric Cole and a conditional 3rd-round pick to Detroit. Thanks for Janmark, Detroit. I like Matthias Janmark. I know he doesn't have a tremendous scoring aptitude, but he's a good, solid middle 6 guy. He can play second line if he has to, but he's more solid on 3rd. So that's a trade that I'm just straight up giving to Dallas on that one. June 27th, 2015, Antti Niemi's traded to Dallas for a 7th-rounder to San Jose. And I said, what? Antti Niemi being brought in by Jim Nill was one of the most baffling decisions ever in my time watching hockey. They already had Kari Lehtinen, who was signed to a $5.9 million a year extension before Jim Nill was brought in. He was signed to that September of 2012. Nill comes in April of 2013. That's not his contract. But when he brings in Niemi's making $4.5 million. So we're paying $10 million for 2 starters, and we don't have one. And this is really the issue for Dallas. This team has been really good for a long time, but they just can't get their goaltending straight. And that was really indicative of the thinking that I didn't get it. I remember watching the press conference and Jim Nill saying, well, we're better off having two starters. And I thought, no, you're not. And then on July 10th of 2015, Sharp and Johns are traded to Dallas because Chicago has cap problems coming out of their Stanley Cup. And Daly and Garbutt are sent back to Chicago as a result. Sharp was excellent the first year. I still like Stephen Johns. Personally, I think he's okay. I don't think he's a top four, but as a 6 or 7 option, you could have worse. That trade for me is kind of a soft because I like Daly too. February 29th, 2016, Chris Russell goes to Dallas for Jokipaka, Pollock, and a conditional second. Interestingly, of course, they grabbed Chris Russell. They were in on Dan Hamhuis, who they'd sign the next summer, but the rumor was at the time Hammer wouldn't waive his no-trade clause. And even though Canuck fans were all angry at him, I never heard him confirm that he was asked. Yeah, so that was kind of weird, but Russell was exactly what Dallas didn't need on the blue line. They needed a Hammer type, not Russell, and it backfired. That backfired big time. So with the moves he's made, he's been able to do a lot for their offense. He's been able to do a lot for their forwards. Defense, iffy record there. June 25th, 2016, an innocuous minor deal that nobody will notice. Nick Ebert to Dallas for Jack Campbell to LA. Made perfect sense. Campbell, he's never going anywhere. Now he's the backup for the Kings. He looked pretty good down the stretch. Dallas could use a young goaltender. It's troubling. And I didn't expect Dallas to wait for a decade on Campbell, but if he pans out, this trade looks bad, really bad, because Ebert is not an NHL level defenseman. February 27th, 2017, Patterson and a 4th rounder to Dallas for Jordy Ben. I like Jordy Ben. I do. I like Jordy Ben as a number 5 or 6 defenseman. He had some good games in Montreal this year. I know Greg Patterson had a half-decent year this year for Dallas, and I'm not trying to put the guy down. I kind of miss seeing Jordy and Jamie Benn on the same team. That's just my personal thing. May 9th, 2017, Ben Bishop to Dallas for a 4th rounder to LA, and of course, Ben Bishop would then sign an extension with Dallas. Bishop is another example of an issue here. So Bishop comes in and signs a contract, and I like Ben Bishop a lot, but Ben Bishop also is starting to show the wear and tear that happens with a starting goaltender. And for Ben Bishop, it seems to be accelerated. Maybe it's because of his height. I don't know what it is, but something with Bishop just, and right now Zdeno Chara's tapping me on the shoulder going, pardon? But for whatever reason, Bishop gets hurt every year. And Dallas's options in net, yeah, I mean, if Lettinen is gone next year and his contract's up this summer, I don't know who the backup's going to be for Dallas. You need a competent backup to Bishop. You need a guy who can step in and be the starter if need be. And I wouldn't be surprised if Lettinen comes back. But the other thing was, bringing in Bishop meant you were spending $10 million on goaltending again. In a league where we can all agree that the smartest GMs are the ones who manage the cap really well. And here's Jim Nill every year insisting on spending $10 million in goal. June 26, 2017, Mark Mathot goes to Dallas for Dylan Ferguson, a guy that they had just drafted. And a 2nd rounder in 2020 going to Vegas. That Ferguson kid has already played for Vegas. He ended up being that number 5 guy that Vegas put in after, Subban, everybody got hurt. And he may be an NHL level goaltender. So again, Dallas trading away, just take this guy, doesn't matter. And Ferguson was, I believe, a 7th round draft pick last year. So it's weird, but that little bit of experience, and then going back down to juniors, who knows? This may give the kid a bit of a jump start, and maybe he'll be an NHL level goaltender in a couple years. We'll find out. And then December 19th of 2017, Jamie Alexiak goes to Pittsburgh for a conditional 4th round pick to Dallas. And there's a video on this channel of me saying, all right, good, makes sense. Yeah, Alexiak. Alexiak was pretty darn good for Pittsburgh. The issue in Dallas really is a matter of this. the blue line and in goal, but there may be help on the way. You look at his draft record. He drafts Nichushkin in 2013, drafted him ahead of Morrissey and Wenberg, are the two that stood out to me. Drafted Honka in 2014 ahead of Larkin. Now, Julius Honka may still become a pretty solid defenseman, but Dylan Larkin, and I know you're probably saying, well, you've already got solid offense. Yeah, but Larkin. Guryanov in 2015 is just one of the baffling ones. Because Barzal was right there, and everybody knew what Barzal was. And for whatever reason, a lot of GMs passed on Matthew Barzal. And the other one that stands out is Kyle Connor. Kyle Connor slid down to Winnipeg, and Winnipeg's pretty happy with Connor. Connor on Dallas would have been pretty deadly. Just throwing that out there. Riley Tufte in 2016. I've already read a couple articles on him that make me wonder about that pick. And Thompson, who's already played for St. Louis, and Sam Steele were still on the board at that time. And either of them, I think, would have been good. I know Thompson didn't put up tremendous totals for St. Louis this year, but he's a kid, so it's going to happen. And then last year in the draft, of course, Heiskanen's at 3. I'm acknowledging that right here. They drafted Ottinger, which at the time I'm like, great, they drafted a goalie, but Tolvanen looks like he might have been the steal of the draft in that first round. Dropping down to Nashville. So, and then second round through 7th, it's really actually kind of anemic for Dallas. And at the time Jim Nill was brought in, he was seen as a scouting a good guy for figuring out which players to pick up for prospects. Remy Ely was a second round pick his first year, and Roop Hintz, who's right now with the Texas Stars as I'm recording this, and Texas Stars are on a nice run. Hintz will likely get a shot at joining the roster in the fall, but that's really kind of it. And then, of course, you got Heiskanen at 3, as I said. Now, for signings, Dan Hamhuis was an astute signing. Really should have been the guy that he traded for in 2016. Radulov, smart signing. But it means that Dallas has one really deadly line, and everything past that is up in the air. I love Radek Faksa as a third-line center. I don't like him as a second. Tyler Pitlick was a smart pickup, but you're not going to cross that dividing line between in or out of the playoffs based just on Pitlick. And Hansel. Hansel is, it's kind of an anchor. That contract, I was baffled when they signed Hansel in the first place, because Hansel didn't play fantastic after the trade deadline last year. So I wasn't quite sure how he got the amount of money out of Jim Nill that he did, but it was iffy. So to me, when you look at the overall body of work, Nill's been smart at the trade table with forwards. With defensemen, the record's a little more spotty, and I just went with the major trades. There are other trades he's made, but they weren't of any consequence. Like, for instance, Johnny Oduya to Chicago for Mark McNeil. Well, Oduya's not in Chicago, and Mark McNeil still hasn't, he's in Nashville now. They just traded him to Nashville. So, anyways, his record has been a matter of the team is a little mildly better than they were when he got here on the records, going from a 500 team to an above 500 team. But if you count overtime losses as losses, and I do, they've gone from 20 and 26 to 42 and 40. So, it's a mild improvement. Their offense is top heavy. Their blue line needs a little bit of work, and their goaltending, I don't know. It's tricky, and one of the trickiest things in the league can be to find really solid goaltending. But I'm really hoping next year they don't pay $10 million for their goaltending. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And this has been just my going over the resume at this stage of Jim Nill, a general manager who's created a Dallas team that won a division title in 2016, but hasn't had the defense and the goaltending to get over that hump. So let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon.